I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Man, that is a sad clown.
Dude, that's pretty good.
This is The Gloom, bringing you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha packs, exploring their F3 experiences and finding those sticky elements that create the glue in the gloom.
The countdown. Here we go. Another special guest on the show today. This guy has become a good friend of mine. We've actually traveled to a shovel pass one time together to the farm, I believe. Is a phenomenal leader, and actually just most recently this week kept me going through a brutal Iron Packs challenge, and just really appreciate, counting and cadence together, all that sort of stuff. But got my brother Truly on today. And so Truly, why don't you tell us just from the start, where did it start? Who EH'd you? What was the first workout like? And how'd you get the name Truly?
Yeah, Blake, thanks for having me on, and thanks for the kind words. I don't think I was pulling you through that workout. I don't know, somehow we did it together, but we didn't die, and that was only yesterday, I think.
We didn't die.
So the soreness is still there, but we didn't die. So, so the name Truly, first, EHing. So my neighbor is the one and only Slapshot. So he was going, well, we'd be hanging out, and I'd say, hey, let's have another cocktail, or let's hang out later. And he would tell me that he couldn't because he had some responsibilities in the morning, such as getting up at 5 a.m. and going to an outdoor park to work out in December, which I thought was utterly stupid. So I let him tell me a few of those stories, and he's a fit guy, and my other buddy T-Ball was doing this, and then my brother-in-law is Bear Grylls, and it just kind of started to tidal wave on me a little bit, and everybody was getting in better shape. And so that was kind of it for me. I needed a fitness solution, so I took him up on it and said, all right. So I hit Slapshot up. I said, where do you work out? What's going on? And he said, well, tomorrow's the berm, and my buddy Sparty is actually the Q. He said, so it'd be a perfect day to go. So, okay. I don't know what a Sparty is, but it sounds exciting. So we rolled. He picked me up, and we rolled up there, and I just completely got my. I don't know if we can swear on this.
No,
it's HBO or whatever. I got my butt. I got my butt kicked pretty good. I thought I was in decent shape. I was pretty wrong. So we got through that. And then it was time to brand me, put my brand on. And I had a brewing shirt on. So everybody was asking me, about brewing and stuff like that, if I home brewed, which I did. So all this kind of questions were centered around alcohol. And I thought I was going to be named Hops. I thought that would have been a really respectable name that I could get behind. But Sparty was on one that day. So he's like, wanted to call me White Claw, but I think there's already a White Claw out there. I thought I was safe. I was wrong. So they went with Truly, and it's been Truly the seltzer ever since. I think he called me that because that was the one thing they asked me about that I was like, I don't drink those. I don't really care for them. So in true F3 fashion.
When you had some alter egos, right? We've had like Truly Chavez and Truly prison inmate. I forget the nickname. It seems like you own the name.
Truly. Yeah, there's Carl. He's the '80s kind of alter ego.
With the mullet wig.
There's a wig there's a wig that comes out. Chucky swears we need to burn it, just hide it forever. But I don't know. I've had that wig for a long time. I don't know. Yeah, I try to have a little bit of fun with it and try to stay creative. So don't take myself too serious. But yeah, those alter egos can be they can be fun if you do them.
Yeah, well, and I feel like, did you what was your progression like after that first workout? Because from my perspective, it feels like you just were all in after that. Like, what was your impression of the group? And
I don't think so. I mean, I see guys today that come out and they're all in. Guys that they're at the next 5 workouts. I don't think I was like that. I kind of looked at it like, well, I already run, like I run a long ways, like a mile, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm a runner. So, and I do push-ups in my garage, so I'm pretty tough. And I was a member of a gym. So I kind of just looked at it as, this will be supplemental to what I do. So I was just going like 1 day a week. I think I went to the berm every Thursday for a while. It was nice and close. And, yeah, I went to one of your workouts and got worked, and went to one of Chucky's and one of Toto's. And I mean, there's just this long line of people, who led workouts that I was at. And then it was continuing to be hard and harder than what I was doing. So just kind of snowballed from there. I always joke around, but when I started, I was like, all right, I need the fitness. I certainly don't need any more friends. And I don't need anybody talking to me about faith or religion or anything like that. So I kind of had my hands out, I was like, hey, I'm here for the fitness. After it's over, I'll say goodbye. And that's where we'll leave it. So, yeah, it really kind of started to dig in and work for me. And it took me a long time to do a pre-run. It took me a long time to stay and have coffee, even though I got asked. I thought it was weird when people would text me after the workout and tell me I did a good job. I was like, ugh, creepy. Why are these nice people trying to be kind to me? Why would I want that in my life?
So what do you think it was that, like, do you remember the moment where it kind of clicked or changed a little bit for you, and you said, you know what, maybe I am going to go to coffee, or what was that?
Yeah, I think it was really just guys that were kind of opening themselves up. Like, to me, it was a bunch of not knowing anything about it. It was a bunch of strangers, right? Like, everybody just kind of merged, and I was new to it, so I didn't know people had already had relationships, and people had been doing it for years. So, I mean, a guy like yourself, opening up about your life experiences and your struggles in life, and just letting that out in the open, I was like, holy shit, like, people are just willing to air that stuff and be pretty open about it and vulnerable and reach out for help. And, that's where it kind of started to sink in with me, like, hey, there's more of an impact here than fitness and getting in shape. It's deeper than that. People need this group for emotional support, mental support, real relationships when people are down, when people need something. Yeah, there isn't a gym out there that really does that. So that's kind of what started to hook it for me. And then I always thought people that went and worked out before the workout were just complete psychos. And I, like I said, I considered myself a runner, but had never ran more than 4 miles, like, since high school. So getting up the courage to go on these pre-runs, and then what you find out is it's a little bit about the run, and it's a lot more just about another half hour, 45 minutes to hang out with guys and hear what's going on. And you might get a story that you don't get during the beatdown. You might get a completely different perspective. So I thought that was pretty cool too. And it distracts your mind away from the fact that you're running a long way. So,
this morning I was on a pre-run and found out that Stripes is sort of a surrogate father for Chucky's kids. He teaches them how to fish and everything that, I would never hear that in a beat.
Right. No. I mean, it makes sense, but we all just assume. But that's really, I'm
curious. Happens. So the fitness side of things, you were running, doing push-ups in your garage and sort of some weights.
Sure.
What have you seen as far as progress in that fitness area? I mean, you crushed the IPC yesterday, and you do. I don't know. You're doing how many Murphs in the year? So I feel like you've seen some gains. But what's been your perspective?
Yeah, no, I think IPC crushed me. I think that's pretty consistent across the board. But no, I mean, I think that there's always a new challenge out there. And it was, I think, about the time that Toto and Pantyhose and all those crazy guys were going to do this 75 hard, that I'm like, okay, what is that? And I kind of just committed to it, like, on the fly. I got back from a trip with my family to Florida, to Disney. And I got back, and I think I asked House Party, I'm like, hey, when's that 75 hard thing start? And he's like, oh, it starts today. I was like, oh, perfect. And I was like, well, I'll do that. Kind of haphazardly jumped in. But through stuff like that, you just learn a little bit about what your limits are, like what you can do, what your diet limits are, what what doing a little extra exercise might do. So that first 75 hard, um, over the holidays, really, I dropped like 20, 25
Wow.
pounds. So that's whenever you see results like that, you're like, okay, there's a little bit something to that. So whether it's Iron Packs or Apex or, helping people out doing Murphs or helping myself out doing Murphs, I think there's just always a reason to get out there and support somebody else. And in the meet, I just along the way, surprise, surprise, like you stay in shape, right? Like I don't really have a great diet right now. I eat basically anything that's in front of me, but I try to stay pretty consistent with just getting out of bed and getting out there, and there you go. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's kind of it. It's just if somebody or anybody else is like, hey, I'm really trying to reach this goal, do you want to be my accountability guy? That's kind of what makes me tick. And that's why I sucked at going to a gym, because unless I had a workout buddy, I mean, unfortunately, I am pretty good at letting myself down. I'm amazingly pretty good at not letting anyone else down, which is hopefully a good habit. It's good and bad, but yeah, I need a group. I need people to keep me going, and that's kind of what works with
Yeah.
this crew.
No, I love that, and I feel like you're tapping into something that I think a lot of guys experience, but it's maybe hard to verbalize. It's just like a lot of times similar to like third F stuff, right? We don't know that it's happening, but once we hear about it, we're like, sure, I could do
Right.
that. I'm curious on the pre-run piece. You mentioned sort of having to work up the courage. What was that? Like, how did you initiate that? I think there's still a lot of guys that would like to pre-run, but maybe don't feel like they can keep the pace. Or what was your experience?
Yeah. No, I think the truth of it is like if you're just going to the beatdowns, like you show up at 5:25 or 5:15 and you're gonna go jog a little bit and get warmed up, and these guys come in from a 4 mile run, you're like, holy cow! It almost appears like they've been training their whole life, or they're athlete, or these Ironman kind of people. You just kind of put them on pedestal for whatever reason, and I same thing. I'm like, why don't you go for a run with us? They're like, well, you guys run this pace, or you do this, or you do that. So I think it's just this stereotype that's out there. And that is true. I mean, guys can run fast, guys can run slow, but I think it's just more about helping people along to where they want to be. It's like, hey, in a year from now, you're going to be running whatever pace you want, 8:30 or a sub 8, it's just, you got to start somewhere. So, it was like that for me. It was like, what do you guys do at the berm? It's like, well, we do a 4 mile run. I'm like, that's so far. Like just the thought of getting out there. And I just remember going into the beatdown. I'm like, oh, I should just go home. That was way too much work already. But you get through it. And once you do it once, like I tell guys all the time, like, okay, so that's your pace. That's really what you should set your watch at, or your goal, and try to just be that guy. Like whatever, you've proven you can do it once. So there you go. Like just make that the new you. And maybe surprise yourself of what else you might be able to do.
Yeah, you make it sound so simple, but I get what you're saying. Where like for a lot of guys, there's just the mental barrier of thinking you can't do it. But after you prove to yourself once,
there's also the very simple fact of running sucks, right? It's really hard, and I got good friends, people in F3. They're like, hey, here's the deal: I just hate running. Like it's the worst part of their workouts, and they just don't enjoy it. And I don't know if you can get around that. Maybe like I kind of grew up in a track family, so it wasn't so daunting. But I think that's hard too. I think there's another level of fitness you get to when you commit to the pre-runs and get that extra stuff in there. So for me, it was a little bit of a gateway drug. Like, holy cow! Like you really start to see some benefits of it. Plus the stories themselves. I mean, if you could be out there on those pre-runs and get some of the stories. You mentioned Chucky. I mean, I run with Chucky. It gets pretty wild out there with some of these these Chucky stories.
Yeah, and you don't have to be running his same pace to hear it, because he's pretty darn loud, right? So I think
right. You could be 100 yards in front or behind. You really can't get away. It's there.
I love it. You mentioned sort of earlier about when you came to the group, you didn't need any new friends, and I'm just curious what's been your experience just getting to know guys in the group, and maybe how have you gone about building those relationships?
Yeah, I think I mean, you kind of get to know your core group, your workout groups, who you see most often, and they're guys just like you who going through the same stuff with family and work and other things like that. And I think, just honestly, I think the group is as much or as little as you want it to be.
Hmm.
You don't have to go do all of the stuff with everybody. You don't have to go to all the happy hours. Like some weeks, I'm just like, hey, this is all I got. This is all I have time for. Hey, do you want to go golf? Hey, do you want to go to dinner? Hey, do you want to meet here? Do you want to meet here? We're doing trivia night. Like, you don't have to. And nobody, it's not like, oh, truly sucks. Like, he never does anything. Like, I think everybody just gets that sometimes that's all you have. Now, when you want more and when you like, hey, let's get together, let's do this, there's always options for that too. So I think it's just nice knowing that you're just meeting everybody where they're at, and it's like the workouts. There's no expectation to be a superhuman or less than that. It's just like, hey, you're doing what you want to do, and if you want to do more, or you want to do less, you want to, build a relationship further. That's great. Some guys you're going to totally hit it off with, and some guys you're like, hey, it's great to fist bump after the workout, and I'm going to cheer you on, and you're going to cheer me on, but that's it, and that's okay. Everybody's okay with that arrangement. I think that makes it pretty awesome too, and that's not what I expected. I expected to get locked into a cage and made to drink the pig's blood, and I was going to become part of a cult, and I was going to get a tattoo and shave my head. That's kind of what I thought it was.
You still had to drink the pig's blood, though, right?
Yeah, but it wasn't as bad as I thought.
Yeah.
It tasted pretty good. I don't know if they put like some type of artificial flavoring in there, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
For all you up and like prospective F3 cult members, it's fine. It's fine.
Just drink it. What do you think about just the, so we talk about sort of this problem of like male loneliness, or maybe not having deep relationships, or, I mean, has F3 impacted you in any way? Like do you feel like you have stronger friendships or relationships, or have you just pulled your friends into F3, and how has that impacted relationships with other guys?
Yeah, I mean, there's really good friends that I think F3 would help, but it's just not doesn't really fit in their lifestyle, and that's totally fine. I always wonder if you talk too much about it when they're around or whatever, but I think what you see is that you are kind of exposed to everyone else's relationships too, or they speak to it, or how they have relationships or don't have relationships. So I think it's just like everything. For me at least, it's been a learning process of, oh, this is how someone interacts with their family or their in-laws or their brother or their sister, or don't, like, or what kind of relationship they wish they had, or any regrets they have, or things they're trying to work on. So you can't really run away from that. I mean, you're hearing the words of someone else, like, I wish I related to my son in this fashion, or I wish I had a better relationship with my M when it comes to this. So, you take those home with you, and if it's something you can improve upon, I think it's something you do, or try to do as well. Maybe you don't know you have an issue. But it's just like coach speak. You hear it enough, it's just becomes kind of sort of who you want to be. So yeah, it's definitely helped my relationships out. Just go a little deeper and give a little more. I think that's been beneficial.
Yeah, man. No, I love that. And it's interesting because I think a lot of us, or I can speak for myself, right, have a tendency to overthink, and then that's when you sort of make things awkward, and then it becomes, then you're awkward, right, about it. And the reality is, like, a lot of us are in similar situations with kids and activities and how much time we have. And so I do think it's, there's definitely opportunity, like you said, to do more or less, or, interact on whatever level.
Sure.
Curious, I know I had asked you to be in a Shield Lock one time and you turned me down, but are you in it?
Well, I don't know if that was an official offer. I thought we were just spitballing.
Are you, have you found a Shield Lock, or what's your perspective on the Shield Lock type of deal?
I haven't, and I know there's some things in F3 that maybe I don't do that, certain people just want to punch me in the face about, like, man, you're really missing the boat. I don't know. A shield lock for me is just, I feel like I've got people in F3 that if I need to have a talk or if I have to have a moment, I know where they're at and I know they'd be there for me. You know, if I said, hey, I won't name any names, but hey, I got something on my mind. You got 10 miles you want to go run. If I said 15, if I said 20, they'd probably still say yes, even though they're like 20, huh? All right, fine. You know, can we drive? So I just think there's people there, and I didn't want to make a club or make a group, you know, and not include someone who's also that person for me, or, you know, I didn't want to include or exclude anybody if I felt like I had a void. I definitely see the value for people that do it. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of where I stood on it. I just felt like it'd be another set of group meetings that maybe I'm already getting with where I go and what I do. So I just didn't really want to kind of get saddled in. Will I ever join a shield lock? Who knows? Maybe I'm open. Flag if you're trying to, you know, junior high dance me into it. You want to go steady?
Well, I think what you hit on, so early on we had interviewed Roll Bar, and he kind of brought up this concept of like everybody within the group is sort of in a shield lock, right? Like the big shield lock, right? You're in the group, right? So like you said, if you need help with something, if you are trying to do a challenge, like reach out and somebody will help you. And then there's kind of these, smaller shield locks, which, they work great for some groups and maybe not for everybody. So I think you're, just hitting on that, anybody that joins us in F3, especially F3 Omaha, like you're in the big shield locks. I want to get your thoughts though on, because I think maybe some of what you're experiencing is like you're saying yes, right, to other guys that are doing challenges, and so then you're building relationships in that space, right? So just think about like you and Chowda doing this Murph challenge, right? There's not a formal shield lock, and Home Alone, How has that been going for you?
We ran right into the Murph challenge, so we'll probably have to re-energize after that and be like, are we still going for the gold? So their goal was 12 Murphs every month. They did that in January, and then I don't know if they just felt like I needed it or felt sorry for me or both, but they kind of invited me to be a part of that crew. Just, a third wheel of accountabilities. Maybe they couldn't. I bet they asked everybody else and everybody else turned them down, so they went to me.
Yeah.
But it's just that third wheel of accountability. If you're trying for something like that, guys have stuff that comes up and they can't meet, and it's like, well, I really got to get this done. Having that extra person there is good. So no, it definitely, it's time, right? Yeah. The more time you spend with someone, the more you learn, the more you get to know what makes them tick and what's going on with them. And I'm still, very much surface level with a lot of guys, and that's, like I said, that's okay. Mm-hmm. I got the chance to go on a golf trip with Sasquatch. So I got to ride in a car with him for 5 hours each direction. I mean, we got in the car and I said, all right, here's how it's going to go. I'm going to learn a whole lot more about you and you're going to learn a whole lot more about me. So we might as well just dive in and get to the good stuff. And luckily he's that kind of guy. So yeah, it all just depends on the time you spend and the opportunities you have, which the longer you do it, the more you're going to have.
Yeah. Well, and you've got some, first of all, I agree. Sasquatch is great. I went to high school with him and he's a great guy. I'm curious though, cause you also have some lifelong friends, right? So like T-Ball, right? You and him used to throw Nintendo sets out the window when you were kids.
No, he the Nintendo downstairs. I was just there for it.
All right. I'm going to ask him about that when we interview him. So more to come on.
You should.
Tell me.
He's got great stories. You just gotta get him rolling.
Yeah.
He'll be good.
What do you think it is? And maybe this is a good segue to the third F piece, because I have seen you maybe peel back the onion a little bit, like at the Impact Retreat and some of those places. But what do you think it is that has kind of got you? Do you feel like you're still putting up a little bit of a wall or a little bit guarded, or is that just maybe how you're
I would say so. Being completely honest, I think it's just a time thing. It's like, hey, if I was really, really great friends with all of these people, it's it sounds like such a bad thing, but it's like, hey, you do want to do this? Do you want to do that? And my answer, it wants to be yes to everything. It wants to be, yeah, of course I want to go golf 5 days a week. I just can't. Of course I want to come to all the barbecues and do all the stuff. It's just, there's only so much time. So I think just by nature of where we're all at in life and where you're at with your family and busyness and everything else, it's just kind of, and it's not exclusive to F3. That's everything you do.
Yeah.
I wish I hung out with more people from work or stuff like that, or could hang out and have a beer after work or stay longer at the potlucks. So I think that puts up some barriers. But, in my times where I maybe have been a little bit more revealing or a little bit more vulnerable in F3, it's really just a credit to everyone else that's done it before me and really showed me how to do it. It's probably something I've, learned the most about is just like, hey, it's okay to, your COTs can be a little bit deeper. Like, this is what I suck at. This is what I'm not doing well. This is what I don't like. I think the more honest you are, the better it comes off. And that's it. It can be faith-based. It can be, I'm jealous of this person and all the vacations they go on, and I'm just admitting it. I wish I was more like them. It's not their fault. They're just having a great life, and I'm just sitting here behind my phone staring at them and like, why not me? Why shouldn't I go there? And they're like, what did I do?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just it's just talking about stuff you're trying to work on, stuff you're good at, stuff you're not good at. But yeah, I think that's what I saw, and that's what kind of hooked me in, and that's what I think continues to be part of the success.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. I love that. And I think you're like, a lot of guys are in the same spot, right? And that's like, we've got to be careful of saying yes to too many things, because we all have a concentrica that we're trying to prioritize, right? And
Right.
Time is a really valuable resource, and I think so it's, I think you're hitting on something that a lot of guys struggle with, because we do have a lot of events or things.
Yeah, but you have to say yes every once in a while,
Mm-hmm.
and when you do say yes, then like, enjoy it, have fun. I'm doing the station to station on Saturday.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it just because it looked like it would work on my calendar, and I'm like, why wouldn't I do this? This sounds great. So we'll go do that and have a good time and run with some F3 guys, unless they all stand me up, and then we'll be able to hang out for a little bit.
It's supposed to be
and after that, it'll be. Go ahead.
It's supposed to be a couple hundred guys there, right?
That's what Short Sale has promised. So we'll see. There's probably going to be like 6, but that's all right.
Yeah. 600,
5,
same.
7, whatever,
Yeah.
same. If you squint your eyes, they're all wearing F3 shirts.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I think you have to make a point to say yes every once in a while, and when you do, it's usually well worth it. And then it just opens up more opportunity to get to know dudes and hang out. So yeah, anybody that's saying no all the time, I would say you need to make a point to try to find a day. If you're getting asked to do a bunch of stuff, pick one day a month and say, yep, I'm going to do that. I will meet you for lunch, or I will meet you for happy hour, or I will go do this, fitness challenge with you, or whatever. I think that's a good bridge to better things.
Yeah.
At least in my experience.
That's solid advice. So tell me where you were at from a faith perspective that got you to say yes to the impact retreat. Just want to hear your experience with that.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up Catholic. Religion's always been a part of my life. Yeah, like most people, I don't know, people get hung up on like, well, they're more religious than me, or that person's really religious. I don't know what that means. Everybody's relationship's their own, but I don't know. I think it's the same. It's just a lot of people that I look up to had done the impact retreat, and everybody I asked about it was like, it was awesome. Like, I would definitely recommend it. So it's kind of the same principles of why I got into F3. It's like, if you ask 10 people that you really enjoy, if they would recommend it, and they all 10 say yes, then there's got to be something there, right? And I'm always at least more and more up for an experience to try to see, if there's more to me, or more I can learn, or more I can experience. So yeah, I said yes to that, and I tell people all the time, they're like, yeah, blah blah blah, F3, and I totally get that. Like, it's People like sometimes it's all we talk about. But I pray every day, and I find myself thinking that way more often. I do more charity than I've ever done. I think a little different than I used to.
Mm.
And what's wrong with that, right? If there's if I got to wear a mullet wig and do some fun videos to get there, then so be it, right? It's fine. I think it's all positive. So
Yeah.
uh,
Dive into that, the different mindset. What do you mean when you say you think a little bit differently now?
I mean, I just think every day, if you're out, you're hearing someone's prayers, or you're hearing about their struggles or their successes, and I just think if that's something that's repetitious to you, and you hear about people's new plans to be successful, or their new plans to be a certain way, I think it changes the way you think. I think it changes. This morning my COT was, we're talking about words. I'm like, so my word right now is today. It's not what am I going to do tomorrow, or what's next week looks like, or what's the trip I'm going to go on. It's like, well, what's today like, and how can it get better? How can it get worse? Just kind of, you just think like that more and more, because that's tends to be a message that you hear. And you hear like personal stories of why it's working for someone or not working for someone, So everybody's trying to be a little more present, and all those buzzwords, present and blah, blah, blah. But that's just, you think about it more, because that's what you see more times than not. If you just kind of hid, then you may not be getting that message all the time. And that's okay too. It's just, you're just a product of your surroundings sometimes. And if you surround yourself with right-minded people, then that's the direction you go.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. I think that, the power of now, or, purpose, intentionality, there's a lot of buzzwords, but I think you're, like you said, when you're around a bunch of guys that are trying to be a certain way, it, can't help but have it rub off a little bit.
And you're not always that guy, right? Like, let's just be real. Like, nobody's like, I'm today all the time. Like, I'm just having such a great time all the time. This is so wonderful, and everything's just great. And man, it's just such a wonder. I mean, it's not that way all the time. Like, it's some days you're just trying to get through it. It's just, I show up at 5 a.m. and I'm not in a great place and tired and this and that. And you show up, and somebody in the group is got a positive energy about them. It's just the way it works. So no matter if you like it or not, you can have your hands way out. I mean, if you let it, it's going to have an impact on you, and an impact for the better. Yeah. So, somebody's going to give you a message, and as long as you don't have your fingers in your ears, you're going to be fine.
Right. Which, yeah, you could have your fingers in your ears, right? No,
I could. I've never done it, but at least not during a COT. I think that'd be rude.
Yeah, for sure. Well, tell me a little bit about leadership. So we've got this mission to reinvigorate male community leadership, and so I'm curious your thoughts on sort of how are we doing in achieving that. What have you seen us do that's maybe worked well? Is there anything you've learned or gained from your time leading in the group that maybe you've been able to take to home or work?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, being a site Q and going through that experience, I think the biggest thing is that it's not really, it's a little bit about you, right? Like, we're all there for our own personal goals. It's not charity, but it's not all about you. Like, there's other guys that show up day one, and you can just tell they're hurting in some fashion, whether they're completely out of shape, they don't feel well, but they have a drive to get better. And if you're part of that process, and, I see guys all the time, just like I was, and a year later, they're like one of the most, fit guys in the group, and they're really accelerating. That word we use all the time. They're becoming a leader themselves, or have become a leader. It's like, man, when you started, I mean, you were shit. You were not good. You were out of shape. You were all these things that nobody wants to become. So I think for me, the leadership side of it is doing something outside yourself, running a slower pre-run to get someone where they want to be, helping someone through a workout to get them on the other side of it, And almost all the time, that person is doing the same thing for someone else a year later, 6 months later. And it's just cyclical, right? So it's just hoping someone can get to a place that they aspire to be to, and they show up to this group, whether they have those goals or not. I think that's really what I've seen for leadership. Guys when I think about leadership in this group, what I think about, that's what I see. Guys that are willing to, I'm like, I know that they probably wanted to come and do this workout today. They wanted these goals for themselves. And they're like, you know what, this new guy showed up and he needs help. So I'm going to just forego my own personal goals and I'm going to help him out. And it really, you hear it all the time, but that's what we're all about, right? If I'm going to convince someone to come to work or from my office or my circle of life to come, they're like, well, I need to get in shape first. I'm like, no, this is the perfect place to get in shape because you've got the support of all these guys who haven't been studs their whole life. It's just, they worked at it and, worked at it in a pretty reasonable way, a suburban house dad kind of way.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that's it. Whenever I think of that, that's really the word that always comes to mind, or the thought process at least.
What about like VQs? Do you remember your VQ? And like, I guess.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like the most important thing ever at the time you're doing it. It's just got to go perfect. You don't want to do it too hard, but you don't want to do it too light. So it's only your first time ever. And then you realize no one's really paying attention. Everybody's just talking and having a good time.
Yeah.
They don't know if you did 20 Merkins, 30 Merkins, or 50 Merkins. It's it's good. I think that's, one thing about me, like when I was going to the berm in the early weeks, I remember somebody called on me and they're like, hey, Truly, you got, 20 Merkins, you got it? I looked at them, I said, no, I don't. They're like, you don't want to, I said, you don't want to do it? I said, no, I don't want to do it. I said, can I just hang out? Like, you guys lead. If I wanted to be an aerobics instructor, that's what I would go do. I don't want to do that. So it's just funny. Like people try to get you outside your comfort zone a little bit or try to get you so that when you agree to do a VQ, that's really the moment where I think you step outside and you're like, all right, I'm ready to be a leader. I'm ready to do this and kind of take that next step. It's not a huge step. Everybody, I thought it was a huge step. But yeah, get over it and you're going to be great.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about, because I think you've done a good job of applying humor to your leadership. So whether it's, pre-blast videos or just sort of the way you carry yourself, you're not taking yourself too seriously, but how do you see that?
Sure.
I mean, is that a sort of a strategy or leadership tactic you've learned over the years, or that's just kind of who you are?
No, I don't. I think that's just who I am.
Yeah.
I can be serious like most people, but yeah, for the most part, it's just if you can have fun doing something, that's just hopefully where it's at. I'm not always a fun person, so I think F3 guys get the best of me every day.
Yeah.
They get me before the world has chewed me up and spit me out a little bit. So that's good. If F3 was at night, I don't know if I'd be very popular.
Yeah. Tell us about share some of the things that you did, because I'm remembering some of the pre-blast videos, but what are some of your favorite memories as a site Q kind of leading the packs?
Oh, I mean, obviously the Truly Chavez video, which has been destroyed, it's not out there anymore, but sometimes I just get these, you get these ideas. The most recent one was the one with Stripes and and T-Swift, right? So, I mean, we're just having coffee on a Thursday at the maze, watching the shovel pass. I actually kind of overslept, but I didn't want to miss the coffee, so I drove all the way down to F Street just for some coffee and some fellowship. I think I hopped in at the end. Still made Namerama, so it counts.
Yeah.
But so I'm just talking to Stripes, and he's like, "Hey, sorry, you were on at Wolf Den," but he's like, "I know it's my birthday, but I feel bad." I'm like, "Oh, it's all good. I'll get back on the schedule." And he's like, "Well, why don't we just co-queue it?" So like in this conversation, I'm like, "Oh, only if you want to, like we can co-queue it." And then I'm like, "Holy cow, we should do a video." And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "Well, you're a ref, right?" I was like, "Why don't we do some spoof on being an official and a bad call or, something like that." So like within minutes, we get this thing going. And then I'm like, if only we had access to a gym. And I'm like, well, who has a gym? He's like, why don't we ask T Swift? He's like, why don't we just get into North's gym? And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, okay. So the ball just starts rolling, right? And Stripes is loving it. He's like, this is going to be so awesome. And I'm like, well, when are we going to do it? So we get up at 6 in the morning or 5:30 in the morning before the Oracle 2.0 workout, and we meet at North, and Stripes runs his car into a pole and wrecks his bumper. That's maybe a story for another time.
Oh yeah.
But he kept his composure. We had a production to make, we had a film to make.
Yeah.
So I convinced T Swift to dress up like an old coach from the 70s, and away we go, right? So it's just, you get these fun things, and it's, maybe I'm too stubborn to just let them go and be like, that's too much work. I mean, if I did half the crazy fun videos that I had in my brain, I don't know, I might get kicked out of the group.
That's funny.
But yeah, it does kind of, and I think it works for Wolf Den. I think people showed up because they just were like, that was so good, I got to show up. And they show up to the beatdown. They're like, where's the outfit? I'm like, I think that was it. We're just gonna work out now. I'm like, but I'm so glad you're here though.
Yeah.
Just so glad you came. But really, that day we couldn't even work out on the football field because North practiced in the morning, so it was too hot. So we had to finagle in the parking lot between cars. It was really probably a number, subpar workout as far as that goes. But 30 some guys showed up because we sold out in the pre-blast.
That's awesome. It was perfect, right? It was like, make the right call, show up tomorrow at the one. Yeah, that was perfect.
And all of that came together in minutes. We needed 2 takes only because the first take I said something like, don't make the right call, show up to Wolf Den. And I was like, oh, we nailed it. And Greenhouse is like, no, I think you messed up the last part. We rewatched it. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe the Farva police chase video. That was 1 take. That's all it took.
1 take.
Yeah. And then we were like, when are we going to do it? When are we going to do it? And we're both so busy. I'm like, it's got to be right now. It was after Catalyst. I'm like, we got to do it right now. So we did it before we went to coffee. We just shot the video real quick, 1 take.
That's awesome.
Spliced it together. Yeah, I mean, so I think it doesn't have to be this long drawn out thing. You just got an idea and put it out there, and there you go. Yeah. I have no idea how these videos are affecting my professional life. I really don't. But
it doesn't matter, right? You didn't really get arrested.
No, not really.
Yeah.
Okay, just for trying to find the Catamount complex.
Yeah,
that's it.
Well, what I guess because I love that, and I think it's really key to just keep it fun and lighthearted, right? And at the end of the day, right, we can't take ourselves too seriously, and I think that helps to promote that, But curious, as you think about the group and maybe your experience as just a PAX member or as a site Q, but what sort of advice do you have for guys? Maybe if a guy is leading a site for the first time, or as we're launching some new sites, I mean, anything you feel like you've learned or seen over the years that you would share is something guys should really look at.
Yeah, I mean, all the humor and all that stuff. I think really all it is putting yourself out there, right? Being really positive. I think that's pretty contagious. Somebody can tell if you're into something or not. You can't really fake it. So if you're going to be a site Q, or if you want to be a site Q, I think you got to go all in. You got to make it anymore. All these sites are so awesome. It really just comes down to hey, where are you going Friday? I'm like, well, there's so many good options. It's sell me a little bit. What are we doing? What's the pre thing, or who's going to lead the, you probably follow positive energy, or you follow people. It's really just about people. So my advice would be, if you're going to be one of those guys that you want to be, just go all in. Whoever you are, whatever you're doing, just be genuine and go all in. Right. So, whatever that looks like to you, there's no perfect anything. It's just try to put yourself out there a little bit, stick around, have some conversations, let people get to know the real you, and it'll probably turn out for the best.
Heck yeah. I love it. That's perfect advice. And I think it applies to guys leading or guys joining the group, right? I mean, I think, lean in.
Oh, and my eyes are open. I'm sure not everybody loves Truly all the time, right? It's man, I don't have the energy for that today. I don't want it. I'm not going to go get it. So that's fine too. It's, I can live with that. If somebody says, you know what, Canadian Bacon told me yesterday, I was trying to convince him to come to the coop like in 15 seconds. I was like, hey, why don't you come to the coop tomorrow? And he's like, well, usually your playlists sound like shit. I hate your music. And I'm like, oh, okay. But he's like, but sometimes, I heard some 80s stuff once that I kind of liked. And I was like, well, why don't you tell me the music you want to listen to? If you promise me you'll show up, I'll plan the playlist around you. So he wore an AC/DC shirt this morning. We played plenty of AC/DC, and everybody was happy. So
Nice.
I guess that's kind of what I mean. You just kind of have to try sometimes. Like, I don't know Canadian bacon that well, but
Yeah.
there we were having a moment, doing a little Back in Black.
I
So
love
that's how
that.
it went down.
I'm going to request a playlist at the next workout.
Okay.
For EQ.
Okay. Yeah,
All
absolutely.
90s rap.
You got it, man. No, it's fun. It's anything to distract from the pain, right? Like when all's breaking down and you're on your 80th Jillian Michaels at Iron Packs, and you're like, hey, is this whoever? Is this Rappin' Touche? Is this Snoop Dogg? That's great.
Yeah, there was some good stuff. Well, and I appreciate too, just the in the moment, sort of accountability or partnership that we get to experience. Like, when we were doing IPC together, it was just like, hey, let's count these out. Let's bust out 10 of these, and just just paying attention to what other guys are going through, where you're at with reps. And then like, hey, let's hammer these out.
It made it easier, didn't it?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, he's not going to quit. And I'm not going to quit, even though if I was doing it by myself, once again, I'm very easy to let myself down.
Yeah.
But if someone else is like, hey, keep going. I did Iron Packs with Chucky last year, and he's the most stubborn person I've ever met. Like, I really wanted to have a better time than him. So we're busting it out together, and I'm like, why don't you just, like, on the last lap, I'm like, why don't you just quit? He's like, no. I was like, no, I'm going to run this faster than you. So just, like, I've got more in the tank, and we finished, like the exact same time. Like, our times were exactly the same. And I know it's just because we're both too stubborn. So that's when it gets fun. I guarantee he ran faster and I ran faster just because we were doing it together.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, I love that. I think I do want to get your thoughts, just sort of currently where you're at in life and, whatever's going on. Where do you need the most maybe prayers or encouragement, or when guys see you out there, what can we do to encourage truly?
Yeah, I don't know. I think, like most people, it's just so much going on, right? Like, I've kind of been talking a lot. This morning, in fact, on the run with Sister Act, he asked how I was doing, and I was like, oh, good. I just feel like I'm on this, like this amusement park ride where everything's so fast, and it's like big ups, big downs, and you go from one thing to the next. You've got a fantasy football draft, and then you've got this, and you got that, and I'm coaching my son's football, and it's just like it's nonstop. But I'm like, I don't know. Maybe that's just how life's supposed to go. Maybe that's, when I look back, I'll be like, I'm so glad that I just went tip to tail. And then sometimes I think I'm supposed to, maybe just lay it down for a little bit, sit down and just relax and, take a deep breath and look around and see life and just try to slow it down. I don't know. I'm just kind of, I guarantee that there's a lot of people in the same boat. So I think just for me, it's just trying to figure out, who I am, what I'm supposed to be doing, and just, putting my priorities in order, keeping my family first, keeping things like that, keeping my faith up, my fitness up. Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? I don't want to have any regrets when I'm older. Nobody does. They want to look back and be like, I did it exactly how I should have done it. I'm so glad I went down the path I did. And, when my kids were young, we did this. I'm so proud of that. So there's no way you can figure that out if you're not listening to other people and talking to people your age and, hey, what are you guys doing, or what works for you? So that's all anybody can do for me is just if I ask you a question or if I'm hanging out, just, try to give me honest answers about what's working for you, what's not. And I think I learn a lot about how life's supposed to go by just hearing it from other guys, right?
Yeah. As you were saying that, what thought came to mind for me, but as far as like identity, purpose, who am I, what I'm supposed to be doing here? Do you feel like the Impact Retreat helped with some of that? And maybe it's just sort of reminding yourself what you learned there, or because I found myself reflecting on that lately.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there's all the buzzwords, right? Today, enough. Like that was one word that came out of that. Like, is all of this enough? Is it supposed to be more? Am I supposed to be doing more? I mean, it's all connected. Like even Iron Packs, I was talking to Black Lung and guys this morning. I always think when I'm done, even though you saw me, I was dead, right? I couldn't do another thing if I tried. I'm always like, I bet if I had done this different, I could have got 20 more reps, right? Or I could have done 10 more. You always think there's more. There's a new mountain or a new step or something you could have done better. But like, when's enough just enough? And is that, are you already doing way more than you should be doing? Like, is God or someone else like, you should have stopped at 550 reps, man. Like those last 30 were way too much. Like, what are you doing? So I don't know. I think if you had all the wisdom in the world, you'd be like, oh, I'm supposed to, B+ is okay. I'm supposed to stop right here. That's fine. That's the grade I'm supposed to get. And I think the impact retreat for me at least was just kind of focusing on, hey, you're enough, right? Or, it's done. It's good. You're where you should be. But it's human nature, and we guys talk about it all the time. Like, what's the next promotion? What's the next great thing we're supposed to be doing? Just who knows? Nobody's got it figured out, but together we're all not figuring it out together, and you got friends and family to help you through it, hopefully. And if you don't, then that's when groups like ours come in pretty handy.
For sure. No, I appreciate you sharing that. I think it's just fascinating to think about, it's something like we all have different capacity too, right? So then like that factors into it, right? So even if you're working from a good place of, who you are, you're enough, you can still do more, but you're maybe not doing it for, sort of the intent there becomes, I don't know where my mind goes, but yeah, we could talk about that for days. I love it.
Because you don't overthink things, right? So we can just not overthink it for hours together.
Yeah, for sure. Well, man, I do, feel like I just want to tell you thank you, just for the time today, but also just for bringing your authentic self to the group. You've definitely had an impact on me, and I know you've had an impact on a lot of guys. So, just thanks for being who you are, man. Definitely appreciate it.
There's a lot of guys better than me have done it for a long time, and it's because of them that I'm able to get out and try to be better. So it's awesome.
Awesome, brother. Well, let's do a little name-orama.
Yeah.
Brandon Flehardy, 37, The Plague.
The Plague. Just in fact 42, truly.
Truly. Oh, you got, water. Or no, that's a Truly.
Yeah.
And recycle. And tell me, so when you do that, you kind of like throw the can.
Yeah, that's just been an evolution. Like, I don't know. I think that just kind of organically happened. Early on, and I'll throw Bear Grylls a little bone here. So, and T-ball too. So I started doing this can thing, right? And one time we were talking and they're like, if everybody did a thing, like we just would never leave. And they're like, after a while it gets kind of douchey. And I'm like, oh shoot. I'm like, well, I don't want to be douchey. So I quit doing it. And then I forget, I think it was, I can't remember, but like, somebody called me out and they're like, hey, what happened to the can thing? They're like, that was cool. Like, you should do that. I was like, oh, okay. So I brought it back. And they're like, Bear Grylls, every time I do, I know he's just like, oh, God, stupid. Yeah. I've known him for a long time, so he has the rights to kind of get on me like that. But he's right. I mean, everybody, I don't know, sometimes your name's just like mud. You're just like, I don't know what I do with mud. It's just mud.
But Bear Grylls should like do like a bear growl, and then T-ball should like hit like a T-ball. Like a baseball.
Well, that was part of the discussion. T-ball was like, in the beginning I did this little tink thing. It just never caught on. So, but yeah, so I did the can thing, and then then it was like, hey, where's people started yelling recycle. I'm like, I don't know what that's all about. Like, I guess that's a new. It just happens. So every once in a while, I've been doing the water thing after the IPCs because I got water after the workout, so I actually do a real drink and stuff. So we'll see. Depends on the mood. Sometimes it's pretty animated. Sometimes it's like, all right, let's get to coffee and get out of here.
Yeah. Well, keep it up, man. Definitely love seeing all the different antics, and I'll look forward to your next pre-blast video, whatever
Yeah,
idea
I don't
comes
know
to
if I'm
life.
on the schedule for a while, so you guys better hit me up and get me out there. But yeah, and thanks for having me on this prestigious podcast. I think it's been something that's going to put me on the map. I'm really looking forward to
Yeah,
seeing where my career goes from here.
for sure, man. Well, I love you,
Awesome.
brother. Good to see you. Have a good
All
day.
right, you too, buddy. We'll see you later, dude.
Later.